Okay, looks like we've leveled off a bit. So in the interest of time, I'll make sure we start here. So welcome to virtual previews to the Families Meet Families presentation, panel discussion, different things, depending what we want to call it. But we're so happy to have you here. Hopefully you've already been enjoying lots of the different programming that we have for you during this virtual previews event. And you've gotten the opportunity to hear from different administrators, different students, faculty members, and things like this. But we also wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to hear from some current families and things. So my name is Marcus Burns. I am an associate director of admission here at Williams. I did attend Williams. I graduated in class of 2006, and now I work in the admission office and I oversee our international recruitment and selection process, as well as the athletic process. But you've heard from admissions already, right? Your students are in. Now we want to hear from other people. So we have our other people here that we want to make sure that you get to hear from. So we have a few parents here that are very happy to join us, and we're happy to have them here to share their perspectives with you. So we have Cecilia Coloma, who's joining us from Canton, Massachusetts. Thank you. And we have Nancy Gilman, who's joining us from New York, New York. We also have Tom Bernard, who's joining us from pretty close to here in North Adams, Massachusetts, right in the Berkshires. Thank you. As well as Martha Guild and Lucas Wilson, who are joining us from South Hadley, Massachusetts. So thank you all so much for joining us. So before we get to the parents, we also have some fellow colleagues of mine that I want to make sure I get to tell you a little bit about themselves as well. So we have Sean Mcgrath, who is the director of the Parents Fund. Sean, would you please say a little bit about yourself for us, please?
Certainly. Welcome, everybody. Again, my name is Sean Mcgrath. I'm the director of the Parents Fund in Athletics Giving. I've been at the college in this capacity since 2014. Back in the day, I actually used to coach baseball many years ago at Williams, and lifelong resident of North Adams. And I oftentimes say I have one of the best jobs at the college because I get to work with the parents of all these amazing students. So I'm filling in today for my colleague, Rob White, who is a director of family programming. He's a name and a face that you'll become very familiar with at Williams. And he also oversees the ever popular email of families@williams.edu. It's pretty much a one-stop shop, answers to all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And then also joined by my colleague, Kate Heekin in the admission office. Kate.
Why, thank you, Marcus. Great. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Kate Heekin, a proud member of the admission team here, and actually a huge fan of your students, of your children. How can you truly be a huge fan, you may ask, of me? Well, I can say that there's an interesting fact, a fun fact about reading applications at Williams. So every application of Williams is read by two of us in real time together. So Marcus, I'm looking at you. I would say, knowing our territories and our regions, between the two of us, we probably read quite a few of the applications of these parents' students, right? So I'm really just here to extend congratulations and actually a huge thank you for raising incredible human beings. We would be truly honored to meet many of them in the fall. So I have volunteered to do logistics, thrilling, I know, but necessary. So we are all here together in this webinar Zoom room, and that is so that you can hear from these families about their experiences and their students' experiences at Williams over the past few years. But there is a part 2 to this session. And so what is going to happen is that I will play timekeeper at about the halfway mark. What I will do is to put into the chat a Google spreadsheet, and do not let the word spreadsheet strike fear in your heart. It is a very simple list, a reminder of the parents who are here in this room, so that you can actually leave this webinar if you'd like and break out into a smaller meeting and ask those questions again in a smaller session in a more informal way. So don't worry about that part. I will explain it again because I know we'll have folks joining over the course of this part 1 here. And so just enjoy hearing from these current families. And again, if you can't stay for part 2, that's fine. I'll also throw my email address in the chat to make sure that you can connect with us later if you still have burning questions. But yeah, if you would save those questions for those smaller meetings, that would be wonderful. And with that, I am going to pass the Zoom room floor over to Cecilia Coloma. And Cecilia, actually, I'm just going to let parents in the room know that you actually sent an email to every single admitted family welcoming them. It was a lovely message. So I just want to say in person, thank you again for writing that message and sending that. So yeah, I'll let you speak about yourself and your son, Nico.
Sure. So thank you, Kate. So it's almost bittersweet because my son is a senior at Williams, and I've seen him, and Nico Coloma Cook. He is a physics and economics major, and he has absolutely thrived at Williams. As you heard, if you've gotten my letter, I was a little perplexed because city folk. So he has absolutely thrived at Williams in so many different ways and continues to do so. So we live in between Boston and Providence, Rhode Island on 95, right off of 95 in Canton, Massachusetts. So it's about 2.5-hour, 3-hour ride to Williams when we do pick him up and drop him off, which unfortunately due to COVID hasn't been much. So I missed the beautiful ride there. It is a wonderful, beautiful ride. If you ever do the Mohawk Trail, please do that. It's a wonderful area. And Nico basically at Williams has been just wonderful. He has had so many opportunities at Williams. He has met such great colleagues at Williams. And I think at the beginning it was tough to be, although he actually loved the intellectual conversations that he heard, that's what drew him to come to Williams, is when he was listening to those. I know those are a little bit more difficult to do during COVID and when you don't come into campus. However, he was drawn by that. And then at the beginning it was tough. There's a lot of bright individuals here and it's wonderful. He has made, and I think that sense of wonderful colleagueness in both the physics and the econs area has made just a wonderful difference in how he's grown. I've seen him grow in the last 3 years. So that's a little bit about myself and Nico. And if anybody, has questions around physics or econ, he's also plays rugby. So I'm happy to answer any of those questions as well.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. And so Nancy, may I ask you to please tell us a bit about yourself and your student? Sorry, you're muted right now, Nancy. We can't hear you. Please.
That is me. I am muted. Thank you. Sorry about that. Well, welcome everyone. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled that you're all here as well. My daughter too is a senior. She and I concur at how quickly the years have flown by. Truly, I think back on the day when we dropped her off at Williams as a freshman, and the incredible amount of growth that has transpired for her, and really for us as parents too. And she's our oldest child, and really kind of having that experience to see her grow so wonderfully. And when she came to Williams, she had spent, she kind of had an idea that medicine might be in her future. She had worked at a lab for 2 summers in high school, and came to Williams thinking, science, med school. And fast forward, she is a history and studio major, which is essentially a combined major of art history and studio art. And it's a single major. And so she's history and studio major and a religion major. She has a double major. I took science classes to satisfy her distribution requirements at Williams, and really kind of just got to Williams, took an art history class, fell in love, and just went down a completely different path. She has been part of an improv group on campus. She has been a tour guide for the admissions office, and she has been a TA for the Inside Outside class it's taught at Williams, which is a class comprised of Williams students and incarcerated students at the Berkshire County Jail. So her experiences have been broad and just, she's enjoyed things and had exposure to things that before she stepped foot on the Williams campus weren't even on her radar screen. So as a parent, I'm incredibly grateful for those opportunities. And also as a parent, I had the pleasure of being involved with the Parents Fund. I joined the Parents Fund during my daughter's freshman year, which was a really wonderful opportunity for my husband and I to get to know the campus and get to know folks in the Williams community. And that involvement has continued as I am currently one of the co-chairs of the Parents Fund. So I'm thrilled that you're all here, and any questions you have, I will try my best to answer.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Tom, can I ask you to talk about yourself, please, and your student?
Well, thanks, Marcus. Welcome, everybody, and congratulations to your students and to your family. I just, I'm listening to people talk and seeing, connections in common. Like Marcus, I'm also an alum. I've got a few years on Marcus, though. Class of '92. Like Nancy's daughter, Kayla, I was a religion major. I was a religion and history double major. So I know that department. And my daughter, Alexandra, also is a senior. She's she's a psychology major with a concentration in public health. She had the opportunity in her junior year to take a semester away. And so she was in Ireland at the University College Dublin. And, we're so grateful that she chose the fall semester and got a full study away experience. And that was incredibly valuable. And I don't remember if it was Celia or Nancy talking about the growth of our kids. But one of the really wonderful things, if there are wonderful things about the past year, was being able to see that maturity and that growth in real time with a college senior at home. And just, the spring was an adjustment, but the fall or the summer into the fall, it was just really enjoyable to have this, this new emerging adult. Alex, in addition to her academic studies, has been involved in Cap and Bells, one of the student theater companies, as a production manager. She was a member of the Accidentals, which is one of the a cappella groups on campus. And in service of her public health major, she's had 2 local experiences that have been incredibly valuable. During winter study this year, she worked with an organization called Berkshire AHEC, which is the Area Health Education Collaborative, maybe. Doing sort of data analysis for them. And then her summer job, which she continues as she's been able to get off campus, or she will continue as she's been able to get off campus, is as a supervised visitation monitor at the Elizabeth Freeman Center here in North Adams, which is a domestic and sexual violence service agency. So again, just being able to be involved in so many things in the community. So thanks very much. I look forward to more conversation and questions as we go forward.
Thank you, Tom. And now I'll ask Martha, if you wouldn't mind, please telling us about yourself and your student.
Hi, everybody. My son is Nehemiah. He's also a senior, and he was in the same entry with Nico. So hi, Cecilia. So yes, Nico and Nehemiah lived in the same entry in Mission, which was probably the best, like most brilliant arrangement that Williams made. He had an excellent experience with his entry. It was 14, I believe the number was 14 students living together with 2 upper class people, 2 juniors overseeing the entry. And they all became very close, and it was just like his home base. It was where he could come back to, and he was very connected with those folks, and still remains today. They even had a gift exchange over New Year's and got together on Zoom. So that was really important for his experience at Williams, just getting him grounded, getting him adjusted to being away from home for the first time. He is a math major and an Africana studies. He has a concentration in Africana studies. So he has really grown into his own with math, and also learned a lot through studying the Africana courses. And he's actually decided, though, to go on in graduate school to something different. So he's really grown. Like through this pandemic, he was home for a good portion of it, but he also was studying abroad his junior year. Fortunately, he got through 7 months of his study abroad year. That was with the Oxford program. Williams has a really wonderful connection with Exeter at Oxford. And so he was able to study over there most of his junior year. And during the time that he was home, which was nearly 11 months before he went back to campus, he really did a lot of soul searching, a lot of thinking about like, what is he really passionate about? What does he really want to do? And he's decided, even though he got accepted to a PhD in math, he's decided to go on to get a master's in kinesiology, because he's also an athlete. And that has been a really important part of his Williams experience. In fact, one of the upper class people in his entry mentored him to walk on to the baseball team. So he's a relief pitcher for the Williams baseball team as well. So he has been a great resource to us as far as our connection to Williams College. He's communicated a lot with us, and we've listened to a lot of what he's had to say and given advice, when he wanted it. And so he's been a great resource for us for getting to know Williams College and helping him to navigate to all the maturity and navigation that has to happen when a child goes off to college.
Well, thank you all so much for those introductions and letting us know a bit about yourselves and your families there. And there was a common theme in there that I heard of all of you seeing growth and being able to witness that in your student. And that's something that we think is very important, why we wanted to make sure to have this opportunity to connect with families, because once we go off to college, that's not the end, right? We have these support systems you're learning about that we have on our campus for our students while they're here, but an integral part is that continued support and love from family members, from home, and having that. So I'd like to throw out to you all, Cecilia, would you mind talking a bit about just kind of how you got to know more about Williams, please?
Sure. So it was actually through, I was actually through Nico. He was the one that researched it out, and he had also a few of his friends. He was a graduate of Boston College High School, and he had a few of his friends actually apply, and it was through Nico, and he informed me of that, and he, the process and how it, where the school was. And that's why I was a little perplexed, because he's been going to school in this city for 6 years. So, and all the schools, the wonderful schools that he was applying to, were all in the city except for Williams. So again, he explained to me, like, this is, I really want to look into this. I said, sure. So we did, we did, and he got accepted, and were able to research this more. And one of the things that also was great is understanding, he was a physics. He always loved physics. He knew that he wanted to go into the sciences. And so again, I was perplexed, and I'm always, so I said, it's a liberal arts school. I cannot say enough of how much that he has been able to kind of research out. And I'm just learning, as Martha said, I learned through him a lot of what the school was about. And it was also through the parents, particularly Rob White. I've always used him as a sounding board. I'm like, so what's up with this? And what's up with this? So can you tell me? So it was wonderful to be connected to the family group too, as well. But it was really through Nico, and he was the one that understood and was able to let me know what's going on through his, although I was heavily involved in volunteering for his high school, I wanted to make sure that this experience for Williams, and it was further away, that it was his own. So he was giving me feedback. And so that's how I got to know Williams better. It was through him. So he tried different things out, like rowing, and he tried things like, he was a mentor. He found his way of how he wanted to do things. And with the STEM part of it, I cannot tell you how much opportunity there is here at Williams with the STEM. I mean, they're building a wonderful building. I mean, like every single time I haven't seen it in a long time, but Nico tells me how wonderful it is. And it's absolutely gorgeous. He's into quantum physics. And you can imagine that that is a cutting edge science type and he's very excited. There's very little undergraduates that actually get to do quantum physics work, and he's doing his thesis in quantum physics. And he's able to do that with a professor in that way. And he can't, that's a PhD level type of teaching. And he's already been able, through connections with alumni, he was able to land doing an internship virtually at MIT doing quantum physics with the premier quantum physics team across the nation. And connection and alum, he just literally called them up, and all the alums want to talk to all the Williams folks. So I just wanted to let you know that there's a great network there. So just getting all that and seeing how happy he was and the growth, and just think his mindset, because we had those 3-hour rides up and back. So he would always talk to me about how he was thinking. And it was just a wonderful way to get to know Williams through the eyes of Nico. So that was my thing.
Great, thank you so much. And you, Cecilia, you mentioned Rob White in there. And so the next question I wanted to kind of throw out there is just what people or different resources have been helpful to you all as families. So I'll ask if Martha and Lucas might want to start on that, please.
Hi, everybody.
It's his turn.
So not knowing what's been said, let me just say the director of the Ting program was really important for us, someone we could call. I don't know if, again, I don't know what y'all talked about, but so Nehemiah walked onto the baseball team, and one of the two people in charge of his little pod first year was on the baseball team. So at the games pre-pandemic, I talked with the father of the pod guy, Tom, right? And he was, right, as another parent, he was really, really helpful. Tom, I think Tom was a junior.
He was a senior at the time you had the conversation.
Okay, and so that was important. Did you talk about financial aid?
I haven't mentioned financial aid was a big resource for us.
Yeah, financial aid. As Nehemiah learned more about the school, and I don't know, did you tell him about his friends coming to our house?
No, I didn't mention that. That was a really great, what a great resource his friends are.
Yeah,
in just helping us to understand how Nehemiah was doing and making sure, he had a good group of friends who was looking after him and, advocating for him and helping him to advocate for himself. So yes, we live an hour and a half away. So there was one student in his entry who was an international student. So he would come down to our house for Thanksgiving and other, weekends. And other friends who were, just lived too far away and didn't go home for holidays. So that was really important connection for us to make to Williams College, was to get to know his friends and kind of sometimes get the inside scoop on what was going on by having that connection and relationship to his peers. So our house was, was a home away from home for some of his friends.
Excellent. Thank you, Martha and Lucas. I'm so glad you joined us. Great. So I said at the beginning, I would be timekeeper. I'm going to stick to that. We have come to a little bit past the halfway mark. And so I'll just reiterate for families that it might have joined after I said my beginning logistics information, that we are going to give all of you who are here now a chance to ask these current parents questions in a smaller format. So I'll say again that if you are all set, if you have heard wonderful things and heard everything that you need to hear, you can carry on with your Saturday. Again, congratulations, thanks for joining us. But if you would like to hear more, if you have more questions, that what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put into the chat a Google Sheet. I practiced this Google Sheet on my kids and my husband this morning. Everyone can open it. And what is on this Google Sheet is just a list of these parents' names and a link to join a separate meeting if you would like to. So here's what I will do. I'm going to dismiss some of my colleagues who will be leaving us. Cecilia, you and I will be staying in this room, right? But other colleagues, thank you again for joining. You guys can head off into your separate meetings. I will make sure that folks here know how to reach you. Excellent, thanks. So yeah, for those of you who are still here and hanging on for this Google Sheet, here I go. And I am putting it into the chat for everyone. There it is, I hope. So again, I have put a Google Sheet into the chat. And so you can see on there, if you open it up, that Cecilia and I are going to remain in this webinar room to take questions. But Nancy and Tom and Martha and Lucas will be joining other meetings. And so you get to choose. This is not a popularity contest, but just if something someone said resonated and you would like to follow up or ask more questions, please feel free to choose one of those meetings. So you would want to leave this meeting and join those. But yeah, feel free to peruse that. Cecilia, you and I will kind of hang out for a couple seconds. I want to give people the chance to make a choice there. I also promised that I would put my email address in the chat, so I am doing that now. If anyone wants to contact me, I'd be happy to direct questions to these panelists later, or anyone else on campus for that matter. So I will let Tom and Nancy and Martha and Lucas, if you want to leave this meeting, you may do that. I'll let you go now. Just make sure you have your separate links. It was a pleasure. We shall meet again. But yeah, I will let you all go into your separate breakout meetings.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, Cecilia, you and I can just hang on for a couple seconds and we'll see who is left in our room. Great. From many to two. I'll mute myself and I'll just give people another 30 seconds. Well, Cecilia, it's not a popularity contest, but I'm going to let you know right now that lots of folks have stayed in this room. So I think people want to talk to you. It's excellent. I'll just give it another couple of seconds. Okay, we have a strong and steady number. So thanks folks who stayed in the room with us. Again, my name is Kate. You can see my name there. I am joined by the fabulous Cecilia Coloma, parent of Nico. And here's what we'll do now. So you have a Q&A on the bottom there. Please throw things in there. I will group questions together, and Cecilia, I will read those questions aloud clearly and slowly so that you can answer them. But I think I might throw one to you first just to get things going. So I know you are from the Boston area. You spoke a little bit about, a transition from city life to rural-ish Williamstown life. I'm wondering, and this is different for every parent and student, but can you speak a little bit to staying in touch, and has that changed over time? Have you had to nudge Nico to stay in touch with you? I just know that parents would like to hear from their students, but how did that go, especially towards the beginning of Nico joining Williams?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer that question. Yeah, there was a lot going on, and as Martha mentioned, I think one of the best things that Williams does is that they have the pods there. I'm sorry, the entries. That is the best way. And so he immediately found that 14 group of kids with Tom. Tom was a junior, and he was the one that he was like the mother hen of these freshmen. And so immediately there was an immediate connection. As you know, with college, you can be very separated. It's a big transition. So to answer the question about communication, he was communicating and so many new people, and he's such a people person, being even a scientist, but he's also very much he's kind of a go-between being an extrovert and introvert. And so I didn't hear from him very much because he was getting to know all these wonderful people in his pod, but he would tell me, and I would have to nudge him a little bit. And then I said, can I just please get maybe just once a week? Can we just set up a call once a week? And he did. It ended up being Wednesday. And we looked at his schedule. He's like, it ended up being Wednesday afternoon. And sometimes I even would have to nudge him on a Wednesday, but he was excited to talk to me about everything that was going on. So that was probably one of the best practices. Take a look at the schedule and things like that, and you can insert yourself there, and I would love to hear what's going on. So that's one of the ways that I did that. So, and now he's wonderful about connecting with me. He really is. So we really have a great relationship.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm looking here, and there are actually a couple questions about summers, like what do Williams students do during their summers? I know internships is a big buzzword out there. I will be honest, at most colleges that you go to, doing an internship is not an incredibly difficult part of a student's experience. There are resources available on campus to help students find internships, but I will just say that it's very commonplace at Williams. I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit more about Nico's summers and internships.
Yeah, so he's had a different experience each summer. So his first summer, he had an internship at Williams. And I have to say, my son's a classic procrastinator. So he was thinking he was having so much great fun at Williams, and then he didn't really know what he wanted to do his first year. So he got this internship, and I think it was like an internship in different types of war and they had to at the end figure out, and he had a thesis, a hypothesis to prove, and it was a history internship. And he was able to do this, and he was able to present something regarding, his position. I think it was on the Korean War, and he was on the Korean side. So it was amazing how he had to kind of switch his very logical thinking mind into history. And he met some great people, he met some great professors, and he had a great experience. He was like, Mom, I didn't, he had to learn about the strategic parts of war and what he had to and how he had to, maneuver that, and what was the better way, how was negotiation. And so all of this he had to learn, which was completely different. And that's what I mean is one of the things that Williams offers is that the month of January, the kids can do whatever they want. And that 1 month, they can travel internationally, they can take these courses. It just so happens that Nico was able to do this a semester. So this internship. So that's one of the internships. The second internship, again, because he was procrastinating, he didn't have an internship. He didn't want to be at Williams. He wanted to be, back in the city with his friends, and he didn't have a job. So he ended up working, digging ditches around all of Boston with an electrical company. And it was hard labor. He understood what it meant to work hard labor. And he really understood, he appreciated what that was and how much that, it takes to take, and appreciated that type of life. And the individuals that he worked with, it was tough for him. It was tough. It was a different life that he really got to know, and appreciated it very much. He understood what it meant to work that hard labor. And then his last internship was MIT. And again, the MIT was with the connection, as I mentioned, with the alum. So again, he's had different opportunities, and he's also had many opportunities to travel. I'm a travel bug. I love traveling. It was very difficult for me. I was like, don't you want to travel? You can travel every January for a month. You can travel this, you can travel that, you can go abroad. It wasn't his cup of tea. And that was fine. And it was okay, because he really wanted to concentrate on STEM. He loved it so much that he wanted to be here. I said, your junior year, you can travel. It's probably the best. He goes, Mom, but I don't want to lose my STEM classes. He progressively took these wonderful STEM classes, and I could see him suffering through how difficult they were, but how challenging, and how he loved that challenge. And even today, I'm like, so what's been your toughest class today? And he goes, it has to be right now, the quantum physics class I'm taking right now. He goes, but it's been progressively built on, and I can appreciate how wonderful that is. So all of these experiences, and their life experiences, and their academic experiences, and he's able to shape himself in these 4 years, and even during a pandemic. So it's that experience as well. It's 1 in 100 lifetime year of experience. So it's been really a great experience. I know that's probably a little bit more verbose, but that's basically his experience with internships.
No, excellent. Thank you. And you touched on a few things there that have actually are coming up in the Q&A. STEM, I think studying STEM at Williams is incredible. And I think, including psychology, if you include that at Williams, around 60% of our students, do major in a STEM discipline. So there's some questions in the chat about sort of how hard is STEM, how hard is it to double major? Could you speak a little bit about, feedback that you've gotten from Nico about maybe struggling academically, or what he's done to overcome those moments? I think, we all as parents worry, is something too hard for our kids? How are they going to be supported?
Yeah, sure. So I have to say that, and I think a lot of our kids do, they go through probably what's a little bit of imposter syndrome when they first get onto campus. You're surrounded by very, very, your child is probably extremely bright. So congratulations, extremely bright. They're probably top of their class. And they land in a place where there's a lot of kids like that. And Nico, there's a lot of phenomenal kids, and it's really grounding them and saying, you got in here, you were selected to be here and to be part of your cohort. This is your family now, and embrace and learn from them. So I think it's that. It was talking a lot through him that, and Williams also did a very good job. And I encourage the kids. Tom, again, his entry person, was just really good at talking them through that, because he understood that. And that's just so great. And to have such a small group like that, so it's not normal colleges, I believe there's like an RA on the floor. We're talking about, like, they call it JA, a junior, a junior advisor, I believe. And he's there to talk about everything, like, we all know, the transition, and that's huge. So that's one of the things that was very important for him. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but the question, I just want to make sure I answered the question. So STEM, so another struggle that he had was, so he was initially a physics and math major, and it was very difficult. And he wanted to also do physics, math, and computer science. Those 3 disciplines are probably the most difficult I don't want to say the most difficult. For him, it was, even in a STEM mind, it was extremely difficult to do, kind of choose between those 2. And he realized a lot of the math classes that he was doing, he was already doing in physics. So he felt like those 2 things were probably duplicative, although he wanted to finish the math, they were duplicative. And so he chose kind of the econ site because he liked the econ. He was actually between econ and philosophy, because he really loved philosophy and STEM, and philosophy and physics go very much hand in hand. And he loved those 2 aspects of it. He chose econ because there was some there was some aspects of econ that he liked that mixed with physics as well. And that he felt a little bit more certain, although he kind of said econ wasn't mathy enough for him. So I'm like, okay, you can't have it both ways. But we had all this conversation about his classes. And when class time came, he was very excited about picking his class and he would tell me about it. But he did struggle. And his mind, the worst grade he got was with econ because it wasn't mathy enough. He would do everything math wise, and the econ, it was more of like modeling. So walking through that, so they will go through and they will change their majors, and that's okay. It's finding their way of what they love, and there's just so many opportunities and so much support to go through that. He got so much support, so many kids, but also his advisor helped him a little bit make that transition, and when he had to declare his major. And so he doubled majors in both physics and econ, and he loves it. He basically does. So I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely, yes. And there's a couple questions in here that I can kind of take because you started speaking about advising at Williams. So yes, actually every student coming to Williams gets assigned an academic advisor, and that first contact actually happens before a student steps foot on campus. But then they actually meet with that advisor again during the first couple of days of the semester, during what we call first days of moving in. And we do this amazing thing at Williams. We don't allow our students to choose to make their major official until the end of their sophomore year. Now, that is not to say, like Nico, you can come on in and be raring to go in a certain discipline, right? That's wonderful. We applaud that. That's great. But it takes a load off of a lot of students' shoulders to just know that they have a lot of time to explore, right? This incredible liberal arts curriculum, and to decide on a major by the end of sophomore year. And your academic advisor is there. Again, we're a small school, so your academic advisor is there to shepherd you through, to introduce you to other professors if you have questions about a different discipline, a different major. And it's an excellent system that makes sure that students know, what they should be working towards, the possibilities, setting goals, but also, again, taking sort of a weight off, and that you don't have to declare that major and decide, when you're 18 years old, and you're just, you're trying to acclimate to college life in so many ways. So that I just thought I'd put that out there because there's some questions about, when do they declare their major? I think, the last thing I will say, and again, I'll put my email address in the chat here since we won't get to all of the questions, but please feel free to send any questions to my email address and I can pass those on to Cecilia. I'm guessing she'd be willing to answer them. There are two questions in here about, I know this is on a lot of people's minds, like urban life to Williamstown life. And so if you could just talk for a minute or two about, does Nico get bored? What is he doing on the weekend? I just want to make sure families know that students are not sitting in cow fields, super bored all the time.
No, absolutely not. And frankly, that was my concern. That was my biggest concern, was like, where is, how is City Mouse going to become Country Mouse here? So there's so many opportunities, both on campus and off campus. I think some of my colleagues, the parents there, just the opportunity that you have with the surrounding towns of Pittsfield and Great Barrington and North Adams. So North Adams also is a very artsy town. So it has, it's a very artsy town. I love going there just to go look at the art. As a matter of fact, just to let you know, the Clarke Institute houses the largest collection of Renoirs and other Impressionist artists, and that's on the Williams campus. So if you're ever there, you need to go to the Clarke Museum. So that just tells you a little bit about the art. But Williams has so many different programs that it keeps the kids busy. And it's there to make them choose. So Nico tried a lot of things when he was out to find his way. He actually became a mentor with Matriculate. And again, that was, the reason he involved himself is that he realized that one of his friends told him about it. And it was, again, helping high-performing, low-income kids get into school, walking them through the college process. He looked at essays. He helped them all through this. He helped them through the financial aid process. Like he learned how to do all this. And he loved it because Williams was one of the largest cohorts in the nation where kids did this to help other kids. So they find their ways. There's just so many opportunities and so many things to do that it's not just in Williams. And especially now that we have, everybody has been used to living in squares, that basically their opportunities are just so abundant that he did not miss the city, or he missed his friends more than he missed the city. So that's really it.
Excellent. Hi. All right. So that was my colleague Solgi. She's running the next session. So that is no, we're good. Perfect. It is my reminder that we have reached our time. And so, Cecilia, I cannot thank you enough. This was a pleasure, truly. And
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, I look forward to following what you and Nico are up to next. I've put my email address again in the chat. Please copy it out. Send me any messages for me, for Cecilia, for other parents that were on this panel, and I will make sure, I promise I'm really good at responding to emails. So I will get back to you about any question, health insurance, dorm rooms, food, anything. Please feel free to contact us. Congratulations again, and hope to meet many of your students next fall. Thank you. Thanks, Cecilia.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Kate. Thank you, everybody. Congratulations again. Good luck.